morning, Happy New Year to you, and welcome to ATN Saturday. ATN Saturday is a syndicated live program of the network featuring conversations and in-depth analysis of trending political news, events, and stories through with stakeholders. Through these conversations, ATN uses political talks about specific issues, party system, and actor to explore hope and engender positive impact to the society. And to the headlines for today, that Ekiti State, we have the police celebrating colleagues' promotion, guns down woman. From Bauchi State, our PRP slams governor over 3.4 billion naira for fuel and travels. In Jigawa State's bride allegedly poisons food at her wedding ceremony. And we have that ANU has urged the federal government to address electricity crisis in universities. For the 2027 elections, we have that Zaga has said to the NNPP that no magic can make Tinubu lose the 2027 elections. From the indigenous people of Biafra, Indibo urges Tinubu to write his name in gold and release Nnamdi Kanu. And the oil and gas sector, we have that a group has backed Obasanjo's claim on Port Harcourt refinery, Warri refinery claims. And finally, that from Ghana, we have the president scraps visa requirements for Africans. With us here at the studio is Ndamzi Ekulo Esquire. He is a political analyst, and he will be joining us to discuss the stories we have with us here today. It's a pleasure to have you here with us. Welcome, and thank you for joining us, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
Happy New Year. You actually had an amazing New Year celebration with the family.
Yes, we did, and had a lot of rest.
Okay,
yes.
It's a pleasure.
Happy New Year out there to our viewers.
Happy New Year to everyone. Okay, right, into the first story for today. An accidental discharge by the policeman in Ado-Ekiti, Ekiti State capital, has killed a nursing mother, Ifeoluwa Adekolo. Information gathered reveals that the incident happened at Okela police station. An eyewitness said the woman was standing across the road opposite the police station when an officer who had come to the station from another division fired his gun to rejoice the news of promotion of one of his colleagues, but a stray bullet hit her. The woman was rushed to the hospital where she was confirmed dead. This is really sad. The State Commissioner of Police, who was recently promoted to an Assistant Inspector General of Police, AIG Adewale Adeniran, confirmed the incident, adding that the officer involved had been disarmed and detained by the command. Adeniran said the officer would face interrogations in line with the Nigerian Police Act. Quickly, Barrister Ndamzi, I'm not going to say that this incident happened intentionally. Oftentimes we've talked about police brutality and whatnot, but this was not a case that it was not an intentional act. Actually, it was an accidental act because this woman was across the road whilst this policeman was celebrating, the colleague's promotion. But my question here is, the Nigerian police force, I'm sure they have rules, in terms when it comes to firing of arms. They are only necessary when it calls for danger and protection. But in this case, this officer released this bullet in the air because he was trying to celebrate. Are there no rule? I don't know if I'm trying to get the right word. Are there no repercussions for these actions, to an extent that it has killed a woman in this question? But first off, I want to get your thoughts on this. What do you have to say about the scenario that occurred?
All right, thank you so much. Life is very precious.
Yes.
And nobody can unmake life. When you kill anyone, you can't bring the person back, whether by mistake or intentionally. And the Nigerian police, we know, have rules and regulations, as stipulated under the Nigerian Police Act. And You as a police officer, you are duty bound under the law to protect lives and property, and not to recklessly snatch life away. Okay? In celebrating a colleague's promotion, he would have done that with a bottle of wine rather than, you know, using firearm, because the firearm ordinarily should be used when, you know, a criminal intends to use force or get away with a crime. The firearm can be used, but firing the gun unjustly is a reckless act, and I believe that the police disciplinary committee will set out the necessary recommendations, which most times end in prosecution and possibly dismissal from the police force, because it is very, very reckless for a policeman to have discharged the bullet unjustly. It's very reckless, and we should discourage that in our society.
All right. You talked about persecution of this policeman involved. In terms where it concerns the Nigerian police, because we've had issues where oftentimes when the police is involved in a particular situation, like you said, you cannot make or unmake life. When it has been taken, nothing can be done about it. But oftentimes we see situations where these individuals do not get justice because of the a particular pattern that has been set in the police force, you know, in Nigeria. We could see, or sometimes we could hear that, oh, he has been discharged of his duties. Everything has been taken away. Then his license has been taken away from him, and certain times we hear he has been persecuted. But on the other hand, we hear sometimes that this particular policeman can be released. We've had cases where they say, oh, he was arrested, he was discharged, but later on he got released, you know, and because it was in this situation that it was an accidental, you know, discharge, not an intentional one. There could be claims to it. But I wanted you to throw more light on that instance about this particular woman getting justice in this instance, in as much as we know that the policeman did not fire directly at her.
Yes, one thing I believe is this: the number of those who are perfidious in Nigeria today can never outnumber those some of us who mean well for the country. Okay? And I believe the perfidious people are not up to 3% of the entire population of this country. We will get it right someday. The solution is just what we are doing here now. Okay. Enlightening our people
about it.
Making Nigerians understand their rights under the law. We have had cases like this in the past. A typical example is the case of the late Chima Ekunado, the Koku affair, where, you know, a power-drunk police officer, power-drunk police officers snuff out life out of that young man and also dealt with his colleagues and all that. We knew what happened. Nigerians shouted. Nigerians, Rivers people particularly, you know, the Igbo residents here in Rivers State demonstrated. Other people joined them. Well-meaning citizens joined them irrespective of tribe. Even I can remember on one of the days of the demonstration, I was driving through Azikiwe. I even saw Aboki men, these wheelbarrow pushers and artisans, okay, joining the demonstration. That is to say, there is a collective call for justice. Okay, so what am I trying to say? Like I reiterated before, nobody has the right to take the life of another. That woman has a family. She comes from a place. People will follow that matter up. And I believe the Nigerian police force too, they are on a mission. They are making an effort to recover their image. So the police force, the police authority wouldn't want anything to dent their image further. In recent times, we have seen situations where they even dismiss them publicly. okay, for Nigerians to see. They remove their cap, their shirts and all that and ask them walk away. Like the last one I saw, they made the man walk away on barefoot. Okay, because the boots were also all, properties of the Nigerian police was retrieved from him, and he was asked to walk away. I mean, that's a disciplinary concern. And it is encouraging. It is encouraging in the sense that it will deter other reckless police officers who would not want to be disciplined, who would not want to keep to ethical standard, because it's all about ethics. It's all about compliance. If you cannot comply to the rules and regulation of your organization, then it means you are non-compliant. So in this case, that family, I urge them to brief a lawyer, or even if they have the wherewithal, they can even brief team of lawyers. They can also reach out to human rights organizations to make sure that that matter is followed up to the point of the IG and also the police commission. I'm very certain with the cream of leadership we have today in Nigerian police, I'm certain that the family will get justice.
So you're certain that the family will get justice in
yes,
this instance?
Of course, because I'm very certain that human rights organizations will key into this. And the police is, like I said before, they are on image recovery. So I believe the authority, the leadership of the police force wouldn't want further denting.
On their name. Thank you so much on that, Barrister Ndamzi. Moving forward, the Bauchi State chapter of the People's Redemption Party, PRP, has berated the state government and House of Assembly for proposing a budget of 3.4 billion for fueling and travel expenses in 2025. In a statement issued by its State Secretary Wada Abdullahi and made available to journalists in Bauchi, the PRP condemned what is described as a blatant disregard for the welfare of the citizens by the government and legislators. The statement detailed the allocation of 1 billion naira for fueling vehicles and generators at the government house. The PRP also raised alarm over the proposed 1.4 billion budget for travel expenses by the State House of Assembly. It condemned the additional 1 billion naira budgeted by the Office of the Secretary to the state government for international travel. This extravagant spending reflects the gross mismanagement of state resources. While families in Bauchi struggle to make ends meet, our leaders indulge in excess, turning a blind eye to the real needs of the people, he noted. Well, quickly, I would love to get your thoughts about this. 3.4 billion naira for travel and fueling expenses for 2025. Do you think that is too much, or do you think the PRP were exaggerating over these claims?
Politicians in our country are really extravagant. There are important concerns to put in this money. Check Bauchi State. You see, you can agree with me that there are lots of poor people in Bauchi State. By statistics, Bauchi is very, very poor. So why budget such huge amount of money for fueling and traveling? What are they traveling to do? Are they traveling abroad to govern us? We need them here. We need them here to set policies. See, everybody in that assembly or the cabinet of that governor shouldn't travel. Okay? If there are important forums or conferences to attend, government can just delegate 1 or 2 persons to represent the government, come back with feedback. With whatever feedback they will get, they can inculcate it into the policy making. So why budget such huge amount of money for traveling and fueling? I mean, it's outrageous. They should consider the welfare of the citizens, like education, health. And I know that Bauchi is ravaged with some of these health concerns. So how much did they budget for health? And how do they intend to to improve the health situation of the state? and also the welfare packages for the poor people. What is the governor doing? Is he thinking out of the box to bring the people out of poverty? With such budget, it means they have nothing to offer. They are just there to, to repeat what keeps happening, ideas to pilfer the state budget and all that.
So about the ideas of the word you use, is it pilfer and the state budget?
Yes, of course, that's what they do.
What do you think this will actually end anytime soon? Because we have had continuous conversations on this over and over and over again about state governors or state governments, taking huge amounts of money and putting a particular term to it. Sometimes you hear they want to buy generator sets, they want to buy air conditioner sets for the government house, they want to, fix the gates, they want to buy gates, they want to fill cars. They just get terms to use to get this particular amount of money from the state's budget. Do you think that this scenario, do you think that this will stop anytime soon, or it's a continuous process that has been accepted in the government of Nigeria, of the practicing government system in Nigeria?
Yes, in my view, it has become endemic. Yes, endemic in the sense that, you see, administration come, go, they tend to follow such pattern. It has become a norm.
So it's more like a structure that everyone that comes into
office would want to come up with, little ways of wanting to steal from the coffers of the state. I mean, that isn't about leadership, because leadership should be about the people. Anything you can deliver to the people that will improve the lives of the people, it means you have delivered quality leadership to the people. Anything outside that means you can't offer the people nothing. So my question is, why would a right-thinking leader come up with such outrageous amount of money for traveling and fueling? To tell you that the legislators today we have are not being pragmatic and honest to the people. If they are, why can't they question that budget? Why? Okay, how many state legislators here in Nigeria can we vouch that they actually screen the budget properly? Ordinarily, a budget shouldn't be passed in a hurry. But we see here, a governor will present a budget to the assembly. The next day you hear, oh yeah, they pass it. That's wrong. That's wrong. They ought to scrutinize the budget ministry by ministry. Invite the various commissioners manning the various ministries, ask questions. Because you need to know how they intend to expend the money to get results. If all the proper monitoring and evaluation are not in place, how will you properly execute a budget? So with their body language, it simply means that the leadership in Bauchi State are not being honest with the people. And I think it is wrong. They need to redirect their steps, because the economy is so dwindling. So why come up with such figures that will not even impact on the lives of the people, or even impact on the economy of Bauchi? What is the state doing to revive agriculture? Bauchi is agriculturally variable. What efforts is the state making to revive agriculture? What complementing efforts are they doing with the security agencies to make sure that there is security in Bauchi? This should be more of concern. Education, health, agriculture should be more of concern.
Because these funds are state-generated funds that's supposed to be used for the people that you actually govern.
So why budget it for traveling? And you see, I feel so pained most time when I hear, our leaders are traveling. Most times the travel are personal, personal travels, not official. It has nothing to do with government. Ordinarily, as a governor, The only time you can make personal travel is during your vacation. When you on leave, you can't. Otherwise, where are you going to? Anything travel has to be official, either state invitation, maybe a state in Kansas, state of Kansas in US inviting a governor in River State, possibly on technological exchange or viewing. Hey, my partner, this is what I want you to replicate in your state. Come. I wouldn't want to mention a state governor here in River State in the past, when I remember a governor in Canada, I think somewhere in Canada, yes, invited him to come and view a state of, I think that was a hospital. Okay, he went there, he saw the facilities. Believe me, he replicated that in River State. I wouldn't want to mention his name. So what I'm saying in essence is, these travels, if it wouldn't impact on the people, there isn't any need to travel. I see it as a waste of funds.
Quickly, Barrister Nnamdi, let me ask you this. Do you think most governors have the intent of the people at heart? As they promise during campaigns, we see that they make lots of promises to the people. I will do this, I have this agenda, I'm going to do this, I'll put this in place, and eventually it turns out to be something else, you know, and then things like this turn up where they have to spend billions of funds on personal gains. Do you think they have the intent of people at heart?
Speaking truth to power, I have not seen any who really mean well for the people. If you are called to serve the people, what do? You come up with ideas that can ameliorate, you know, the hardship the people are facing. You come up with so many things. You come up with policies that will encourage businesses, policies that will encourage foreign direct investments, and all that. But what do we hear in Nigeria? We only hear of the monthly allocations. The governors are only interested in what comes from Abuja and what comes internally from their revenue sources.
Okay.
So I have not really, I stand to be corrected. Okay. I want to say governor who has really thought out of the box, invested in something that generates revenue for the people, then invest the revenue on the lives of the people. Okay. We want that. I want to see that. It's all about, oh, monthly allocation, we received so amount of money. We are doing this. We have paid workers. I mean, that shouldn't be governance. Governance should be more of proactiveness. Governance should be solution driven. Because as far as I'm concerned, there are lots of challenges on the table.
Yes.
But when they come in during campaigns, they will make bogus promises. At the end, they will achieve little. So, to me, it's all about self and not the people.
Okay. Thank you so much on that. Well, that's actually a sad one. Well, moving forward, a joyous occasion has turned into a tragedy in Jahun local government area of Jigawa State after a bride allegedly poisoned food served at her wedding reception. The incident left the groom critically ill and claimed the life of one guest. Eyewitnesses suggested that the bride's action may have been motivated by a personal vendetta, though details remain unclear. The police public relations officer for the state, Sihusu Adam, confirmed the incident on Friday and revealed that an investigation is on the way. We received a report that the bride had tainted the food served at the wedding reception, leaving the groom critically ill, Adam said. According to him, 2 suspects have been arrested in connection with the incident, the bride and another female accomplice. Both are currently in custody and being interrogated by the Criminal Investigation Department of the Jigawa State Police Command. We attend weddings and we eat in weddings. Should we be scared? Should we be scared because this is actually a thing for concern? Imagine the food I serve for the public. Because when I go on wedding occasions, I eat. You know, because you come out and not want to eat because you know you get served at the occasion, at the ceremony. Well, this is actually a sad one. Like the state police command, Jigawa State, has said that there could be a personal reason why this bride decided to taint the food that has been served to the public. You know, why do you have to wait until that particular occasion to show your grievances? What could have, you know, caused this altercation? What could have actually triggered this action for this bride to do this? This is actually a sad one. But quickly, I would love to get your thoughts about this. What do you have to say?
Well, what I have to say is that act is evil. Well, investigation is ongoing. We wouldn't want to preempt the outcome of the investigation, but if actually she did that, then she's worse than Jezebel. You know, that's very wrong of her to, like I reiterated before on our last listing, nobody has the right to take a life. Nobody at all. Now, let us look at the position of the law in respect to what that acts. That is, in our penal code, that is culpable homicide, section 220 of the penal code. Then in our criminal code act, section 316, that is murder. Okay, so you know why I brought in these two authorities, legal authorities, are because, you know, here in Nigeria, criminal jurisdiction, we have two criminal jurisdictions here in Nigeria.
Okay.
But the two different criminal jurisdictions giving birth to other smaller jurisdictions like the states. We have the Criminal Code Act, which is applicable in the south, and we have the Penal Code Act, which is applicable in the north. Okay. Then in Abuja, both applies mutatis mutandi. Okay. So what am I trying to say? Because it happened in Jigawa State, the Penal Code will apply. Okay, the Penal Code will apply section 220, you know, and also the sufficiency of facts in getting conviction in that matter will only mean for the prosecution to prove that there was actually an intent to kill, that it wasn't a mistake.
Okay.
What of a situation where the cook alleges that she never knew that what she added on the food is poison, that maybe she thought it was salt and all that, although this is a matter for the prosecution and the defense counsel to unravel.
Because everyone else involved in the food will be,
you know, so
into the case.
Exactly. So it's just the situation. It's a criminal concern. It is murder in the south, and it is culpable homicide in the penal code jurisdiction because it involved one or more people. Okay, so it's culpable homicide. Here in the south, we can call it multiple murder. Okay, because one or more people are involved. So that act is very, very wrong. It's unlawful, and people should be discouraged to met out, you know, vendetta like that. There are ways to resolve disputes when they arise. Okay, if you are pained to the extent that you can't take it anymore, you talk to someone. Okay, there are people to approach, like our religious fathers, like our communal heads, friends and families of the person who have injured you. You can reach out to whomever you think is close to that person. Then look at a way of settling amicably instead of indulging in taking life. That is felonious, and the penalty is death sentence.
Well, I would love to also ask you, in a sense, whereas let's say the bride actually, because it's this is an alleged situation. Let's say she actually committed this offense. You know, I want to look at it from a different angle. I'm not saying that we have rights to take lives, like you stated from the beginning. But in an instance, because in Jigawa State we have heard, especially the northern end, you know, about early child marriage. You know, what if in this instance this girl was forcefully, you know, she was forced into getting married to the person she didn't want to get married to? You know, in that instance, I actually want to get your thoughts from that angle.
Okay. Even though that might be the scenario, or look like the scenario
that could cause that.
Yes, she shouldn't have taken a life. That's just the truth. There are other ways to ameliorate that concern. It will even be better for her to run, escape, or maybe pretend to go into the marriage. One day the man gets to work and she takes off. Or, you know, there are better ways other than killing someone. Because now, having killed someone, if it is proven beyond reasonable doubt that she actually did it willfully, there was intent to kill or intention to cause bodily harm, then it means she too will be killed. Okay. That's what the law says.
Okay. So. Well, that's a thoughtful one. Well, we have lots of stories with us here, and the next is that the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SSANU, has called on the federal government to urgently address the ongoing electricity crisis in universities across the country. In a New Year message yesterday in Abuja, SASU's national president, Mr. Mohammed Ibrahim, expressed concern over rising electricity costs in universities, stating they were hindering their ability to function effectively. Ibrahim emphasized that a reliable power supply was vital for the administration, teaching, research, and community service within the university system. We urge the federal government to take immediate action to resolve this energy crisis, as it directly impacts students, the primary stakeholders in our universities, Ibrahim said. Ibrahim noted that this commitments were crucial for maintaining industrial harmony and ensuring the welfare of university staffs. Well, I went to the University of Port Harcourt, you know, and oftentimes we had this same issue, and we had loads. Nigerian universities actually we've come in terms to accepting several challenges that we encounter while in school, you know. But electricity is one thing that is very paramount, because we have hostels in schools and we have students that stay in there. Imagine staying in a hostel and you're supposed to study, you know, every night, and then there is no power supply and you have to burn candles, you know, or you use rechargeable lanterns and all of that, you know. And this is an institution of learning. But it's a thing for concern just coming from the SASUN to the federal government. Do you think this is actually a necessity that should be handled in the universities in Nigeria?
Yes, thank you. Yes, electricity or power supply, it's very, very crucial to the day-to-day life of a nation, not just the university sector,
yes,
but nation generally. Then particular emphasis on the university. Without power supply, the students cannot even do their researches. The students cannot do their book work properly. You will see that performance rating will be low if power keep cutting. It will affect, even the best brains will be affected because they need electricity to study. So power, it's very, very crucial. Very, very crucial in a learning environment, because the industrial partners, like those who provide services like photocopy, the business centers, the cyber cafes and all that, the restaurant owners, and shopping malls and all that around the universities, they need power supply to thrive. Even though they may want to go for alternative power supply, you see that will affect prices. That will affect demand and supply. So it is very, very crucial that the government see that as a matter of urgency, possibly encourage the universities to have alternative power sources instead of relying solely on what comes from the national grid. Okay. Like, why do I say this? I was reading an article some days ago. I found out that University of California, their budget is even bigger than the budget of Nigeria. Okay, I mean, the universities out there are wired in such a way that they can function even without government interference. Everything, they have their power supply, they have everything. So the universities here also should be encouraged. The university leadership should be encouraged to look at alternative power supplies like renewable energy, like the wind energy, the solar. I mean, Africa is very hot, and you know, we have lots of energy conserved in our ecosystem. So the universities should look into, the federal government at this point should heed to the call of SANU. Okay, should heed to the call of SANU and encourage power holding to do adequate supplies to the universities. Possibly, government can subsidize electricity supplies to school as a way of encouraging education. I mean, these are policies that are lacking. These are policies that are lacking on the table. We need the right people to take over the jobs so that things will be turned around. I mean, what stops government from, power holding? This is what we intend to do. Assess it and give us a budget. Okay, from this, please, we want to cut costs. We want to subsidize electricity supplies to our schools. That will encourage the economy. That will even boost economic affairs around the universities. You see, prices of commodities that the students buy will drop. Prices of food like ice cream and all that will drop because some of those facilities are being manned by electricity supply. So all this should be considered, and I believe SANU shouldn't just do an oral public request. There should be a proposal. There should be a proper proposal sent to the federal government. Even add up what I just suggested. Government can cut electricity costs, supply to the schools. This is just a way of, encouraging studies, welfare of students, security, because it will also improve security around the university community. Imagine a university community that is always dark at night. That is a community where we have people from diverse culture. Behavioral patterns are different because they are from different family backgrounds and all that. So you don't know who is who. We will have people who steal, those who will willfully want to commit rape, those who would want to do all sorts of vices. So when there is steady power supply, moreover at night, you see everywhere will be brightened, people will be scared to commit one or two things. So it is encouraging that the federal government heed the call of SANU as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you, Barrister Ndamzi. Well, I also wanted to ask you, in the university sector, there are a lot of crises that are ongoing, but electricity is one of the concerns that SANU has actually pointed out to the federal government. You know, the instance of how do I put it? This university allocation, the paying of university staffs and lecturers and academic and non-academic staffs. There's actually been a thing of concern that involved the ASU, into it. But my thoughts on this, my question on this is, why do you think that? Because if you have to check this, the education system, this is like a basic. This is where we groom the leaders of tomorrow. This is where talents gifts are actualized. But we notice oftentimes that the government that are supposed to oversee these things from actualizing do not pay attention to them. And education is one of them. Security, like you mentioned, is one of them. Electricity is one of them. Good roads is one of them. But we always come in terms with the problem where governments do not pay attention to this. Even health is one of them. Well, it's just been a thing of a tussle, more like we're asking for too much, you know, in the country for things that are supposed to be given to the country, to the citizens of Nigeria. I actually wanted to ask you, do you think that this problem, because to me it's a problem, we keep calling on the federal government, please address electricity, please address education, please address the dilapidated roads, please address health sector, please address all of these things, because these are things for concern. But oftentimes it's either they do them halfway, leave them, or they come to, like you talked about the SANU writing a proposal to the federal government. Imagine these proposals are being written to the federal government and nothing is done about it. And it just continues. But I just wanted to get your candid thoughts about the situation while it keeps going on and on over and over again.
Okay, I would want to begin from the angle of power generation. Let us look at power generation, okay. Then we will discuss other concerns you raised. Currently now, in Nigeria, the states can generate, okay, and transmit power.
Okay.
The states now have, you know, powers under our laws now. They can have their own independent power plants.
Okay.
So, this call for power supply to the federal government, I also think that the federal government is overburdened.
Okay.
That is the reason why, you know, the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu saw the need to decentralize electricity supply, giving the states powers, licenses to build and operate its own power plants. So the states also should be encouraged to do consistent and permanent power supplies to the state-owned universities, polytechnics, college of education, and all that. All tertiary, in fact, even to down to the secondary schools, because there are the secondary schools also, they need the electric power supply. The primary school also, they need power supply. The kindergarten, the crèche, they need power supply to thrive. They must watch their cartoon. They must look at other toys and all that are powered by electric. So the states should be encouraged. Further calls should be reduced to the federal government on power. Because federal government, in my own view, have started providing solution, even though we have not seen it. But policy-wise, they have said, okay, states, you can generate, you have our licenses, generate, build, operate, and transmit. So the states now can do that. So also the states are empowered to build modular refineries. You know, most of these power plants are gas powered. Some are solar powered, and some also can be coal powered, like the ones mainly that comes from India, the Belarus, Peru, and all that. These ones are mainly powered by the coal. The Indians are very good with coal-powered plants. I once had a good relationship sometime with a man, but he has passed anyway. So then he was into these power systems and all that. He kept sending me, you know, different version of power plants we can propose to the government. At some point, I proposed to the government here in Rivers State then, you know, 2 past administrations. And the man I sent the proposal then, who was in charge of what's that? He's not in ministry. He was in charge of, there's this agency here in Rivers State that functions like the Bureau for Public Enterprise. Okay. They woo investors to come in and all that. So I wouldn't want to mention the big man. I took the proposal to him and it didn't fly for reasons of corruption. They wanted tip up front before they could encourage the investors to come. I told him, I said, but sir, this is an investor who only wants, a level playing field, provide security, provide logistics. We have the technical know-how, we have the facility. We can do build, operate, and transfer. That was the proposal then. Build, operate, and transfer for, I think, 12, 14 years. Okay, but it didn't fly. So why did I bring in this? I brought this in to buttress the idea of Indians and coal-powered power plants. So, then now, reconciling it with what you earlier asked about the university community and the corruption and all that, I want to lay proper foundation on how corruption in maybe economic sabotage, financial misappropriation, bribery and all that. You can't stop it by that. There should be an anti-corruption education. There should be an anti-corruption. See, anti-corruption, in my opinion, should be a course of itself in the universities. Do you know why? That is where we train out leaders that will take over from those who are wherever they are today. Okay.
Because you made mention about a structure that has been put in place. When we talked about the Bauchi situation, you talked about a structure that has been put in place that everyone that comes in has a motive of, did you say sniffing?
Yeah, pilfering for the pulse of the state.
From the pulse of the state. When the structures have been put in place for a very long time, and then you are bringing up a particular course in the higher institution about anti-corruption, do you think that can work, that can fall into place?
Yes, it will encourage facing out corruption. Why do I say this? The university, as we are known, even in during the days of our graduation, when the vice chancellor and others want to declare us graduates, they will tell us that the university, that these students have met the standard of the university in character and in learning. So that is to say, we didn't just go there to learn and acquire knowledge. We went there also for our tutors, being the lecturers. The teachers, should be people with high level of integrity, and should be people of character. That now they imbibe it, transmit it, put it into us.
Do you also know that in this higher institution, the education sector, that the structure has also been put there?
Of course. Of course. We are, no doubt, the university system is polarized in Nigeria. No apologies to any of the schools. The university system, I repeat, is polarized, corrupt. I mean, the corruption led to, lecturers wanting to sleep with students for grades. That's corruption. Corruption is not all about stealing money. You do this for me, you influence me getting this on my seat. It means I'm corrupt. If I cannot, keep to regulatory standard, comply to university rules and regulation, comply to the Senate rules, comply to whatever policy your department have, it means you are non-compliant, it means you are corrupt. Because when they do that, they are trying to bend the system. It is no more the system thinking. It is they now trying to bend the system to think in their own way, thereby encouraging corruption. Imagine a female who visited a lecturer for grade, sleep with a lecturer for grade. what do you think such a student will offer upon graduation? There's nothing to offer. I met, with no apology, I met one copper one day in the bank. A copper who was just mobilized to come. You know, looking at her, the uniform was so shiny. So we're in the bank, and the next thing she tapped me, say, hello, sir. Please help me fill this. I felt bad. A copper, a graduate, found it difficult to fill her own slip to get her money. I mean, isn't that embarrassing? That such a student went through the process of learning and remolding of character, because it is believed that the university system is where your character will be sharpened. Your character will be, you know, to an extent, so that when you go out there to the labor market, you will represent your school. Which certificate does he or she bear? They call the name of the school. Such a student, because of quality input, wherever him or she finds herself, means truly that this person went through the process of learning, the process of character refining, and today he or she is making positive impact. You know, so corruption, if we introduce anti-corruption courses in our universities, it will boost the efforts of, you know, recovering our nation. Because as it is, corruption is endemic in our nation. Corruption has had great-grandchildren. Corruption has had branches all over. So for us to face out corruption, we need to start teaching the next generation about the do's and don'ts of corruption.
Okay. Thank you so much on that, Barrister. That's a great analysis. Well, we'll go on a quick break. When we return, we will continue with the rest of the stories. Do stay with us.
Every day, our lives are changed by history.
Welcome back. The chairman of the North Central All Progressives Congress APC Forum, Alhaji Saleh Zaga, has declared that there is no magic that can stop President Bola Tinubu from winning the 2027 presidential election. In a statement he released in Abuja on Friday, 3rd January 2025, Zaga said Nigerians will vote massively for Tinubu in 2027 as his policies would have turned the country around for good by the time the election comes around. Zaga, a member of the APC Presidential Campaign Council in the 2023 election, was responding to remarks made by Kano State New Nigeria People's Party NNPP chairman Hasimu Suleiman Dungurawa, who warned Tinubu to prepare for defeat if he decides to run for a second term in office in 2027. Suleiman, while making this remark in Kano on Thursday, 2nd January 2025, said Nigerians will vote Tinubu out in the next election due to his anti-people policies. With these harsh anti-masses policies and your stance on them, just prepare for defeat in the next general elections. You either change them or we Nigerians together will change you, Suleiman warned Tinubu. However, reacting to the NNPP's leader's comments, Zaga stressed that there is no way the APC, through Tinubu, will not retain the presidency in 2027. Zaga declared that the bold decisions taken by Tinubu, such as the removal of the fuel subsidy and the floating of the naira, were necessary steps that had to be taken to put the country on the right path. But quickly first, I'd love to ask you, Barrister Ndamdi, do you agree with what Zaga has said about siding President Bola Tinubu that no magic will make him lose the 2027 election? That's the first question. And secondly, do you think that the policies he has made, according to NNPP, for the period of time since May 23rd, 2023, since he was in office up till now, it has not been to the benefit of Nigerians?
Thank you. I like that caption, no magic can make Tinubu lose. I like that caption. See, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in my own view, I see him as the most powerful man in Africa today. Why do I say this? He was not, in fact, in my view also, he was not in the good books of Buhari. Then.
Okay.
Yes. Even though the man Buhari never had the clout to tell him off. With the body language of Buhari then, it was obvious that Buhari wasn't comfortable handing over power to Tinubu. But because of how powerful Tinubu is, or where, as at then, Buhari was very skeptical in telling him or working against him openly.
So Buhari handed power over to Tinubu.
Yes, of course, Buhari handed over power to him. But if you look at what played out at the inception of, campaign, choice of who becomes the candidate, you will see that so many things happened. I can tell you for free that Buhari right choice never made list. What happened? The man was out of power and he was able to defeat power. The scarcity of funds during the election, we knew what happened in Nigeria. And finally, he got succor. He won by all strata. And
I thought it was Emilokon that actually happened.
That's why I declared him the most powerful man in Africa. He came out and told us that it was his turn. Until today, nobody disputed that fact that it was not Tinubu's turn. He took it, he grabbed it, and he ran away with it, like he said. So, what am I trying to say? No magic, like the caption said, can make Tinubu lose election 2027.
So, by 2027, the Emilokon second would come into place.
The only thing, going by the Nigerian factor, I'm saying this, so I am not saying this by what I know. I am saying it based on the Nigerian factor. The man understands Nigerian politics very well. I and you know that the Nigerian factor, no free and fair election, bribery takes the order of the day. The Independent National Electoral Commission does not comply to its own rules. The courts at the end will authenticate what they did. So the question is, how do you want to win Tinubu in 2027? The only way we can win, anybody can win Tinubu in 2027 is that Tinubu says he will not run for a second term in office. That is one. Then secondly, how do you intend to win President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his second term when the same constitution is there? It has not been reviewed. We don't have a people's constitution. The same electoral act, which encourages electronic transfer of votes and at the same time encourages the manual entry of votes, it's still there. The same section 60 of our constitution, the controversial section 60, is still there. So tell me, how can any right-thinking person in this country win Tinubu? I mean, these opposition parties, they have lost it completely. Completely in the sense that they will leave out the right questions to ask and be making frivolous statements. You want to win President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, what are the structures you have put in place to win him?
What structures do you think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has put in place? I asked you, that was my second question. Do you agree that since he was in office in May 23rd, 2023, up till now, he has made choices that has been beneficial to Nigerians? What structures do you think he has put in place that can actually make him remain? That's why I asked you, does it mean that in 2027, the Emilokon second will come into place? Because we're already experiencing Emilokon first. By 2027, it's going to be Emilokon second because you already agree to the fact that no magic can make him lose, just like Zazaga said. So I would love you to please answer my questions, Barrister Ndamzi.
Like I said before, there are prevailing factors that will play to the advantage of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2027. And the first And the most important factor is the fact that the Independent National Electoral Commission will still do the magic. At the end, there will be mutilations in our result sheets. The court will even authenticate the mutilations. At the end, we will see addition of votes. And the courts will tell us that the votes are authentic votes. Even though we cannot trace the source,
okay,
the court will authenticate it. Even when there are facts, the courts will do their magic. The police, who will the police officers listen to the day of the election? Who is the chief commanding officer of the armed forces? The president. So the Nigerian factor will happen in 2027, and I tell you, even the best candidates cannot win Tinubu. Yes, we have seen in recent times some of the northern leaders. Why I say some, not all of them. Okay. Some are aggrieved. They have vented out anger, said all the things they want to say, how they intend to vote against him, how they intend to merge with the East, and all that. But I can tell us for free that Nigerian factor is bigger than that. Nigerian election is all about the more you look, the less you see. You see, the real-time counting of results ordinarily should have saved our electoral system. But intentionally, INEC knew that they will not transmit results in real time. Even though they made efforts, spent our billions, got the facility. See, we had one of the best. The company that provided that IREV and Beavers facility is the best in the world. But on getting to Nigeria, there was a glitch. Even when the company sent their experts to authenticate the fact that there was never a glitch, that their equipment was active and functioned optimally, the court still allowed Nigeria to happen. So what am I trying to say? You cannot win President Bola Ahmed Tinubu unless the constitution is properly reviewed to become the people of Nigeria's constitution. Because what we have today is just, the military government just came in and added clauses that will favor leaders. Because their intention then was change to civilian contest election. We see so many of them who are retired military generals and all that, in Senate and all that.
So democracy cannot even fall in place in this situation.
Democracy can fall in place, but the thing is, the opposing parties, the opposition parties kept asking the wrong question. I expected, for example, the Labour Party, the PDP, the NMPP, I expected them at the inception of this administration to begin tackling the National Assembly to review our constitution. That would have been the right steps to take. Embark on media campaigns, peaceful demonstrations, asking the National Assembly to review our constitution and also the Electoral Act. Because where the problem lies is the transmission of result in real time. Says NBA, which I'm a member, our election, you can see it in real time. As you cast your vote online now, it's adding up. The next person is saying that, oh, somebody just casted a vote. If the votes were maybe 189, 130, 120, if I cast a vote in favor of the person who had 189, it increases. And every other person sees it in real time.
Okay.
If a smaller unit like the Nigerian Bar Association can have free and fair election, with meager resources. What stops Nigeria? With a whole lots of money. We have our ways. Nigeria can buy the best of equipment to give us results. But do you know why they won't do it? If they do it, they will be shooting themselves in the leg. Who says that we cannot have electronic voting? Is it difficult? These are questions I thought the opposition party should be asking. Not, sitting in one function and you just say that 2027, this man will not win. The last election, did your vote count? Mine never counted. I can tell you for free, my own vote never counted. Here in Rivers State, I knew whom I voted for. But it counted in favor of Tinubu when he was never close to the corridors of power. Then now he's seated there with the same constitution that played in his favor before, with the same electoral act, and with the same crew of men in the judiciary. You want to win him? I mean, NNPP should have a rethink and start asking the right questions. The questions should go to National Assembly to review our constitution, to review our electoral act. The
same National Assembly that passed the budget for 2025 that he presented in a few days.
Because our Nigerians are not asking the right questions. Sis, budget presentation is not something that can be concluded in a week. Ordinarily, we wouldn't be asking our president to come to session daily. He is duty bound under the law to make the presentations. But the way it should be, the senators ought to invite those who will carry out the stipulated as concerned. They should come. Nigerians need to hear this budgeted amount. How do you intend to actualize the task before your ministry? We need to know. And it should be in such a way that, in budgeting, there are long-term budgets and short-term budget and medium-term budget. They should be able to tell us, okay, if it is Ministry of Works, that this road leading from Port Harcourt to Imo State, between so time to so time, we intend to deliver phase 1. Phase 2, with more funding comes like. Nigerians are supposed to ask questions. But what happens? The president will submit the budget, and he's the most powerful man in Africa. I give it to him.
But this is, I like to use the word, this is a thing for concern, because as it stands, you said that the only person that can stand against him right now is someone that has a constitution or something placed that is higher or greater than whatever he has done. Am I correct?
No,
not
really.
Exactly.
Not exactly.
But you talked about meeting the National House of Assembly to review the Constitution
and the Electoral Act.
And the Electoral Act that has already been tainted by this particular person in power. How do you think they will review this Constitution?
Yes, to set the record straight, he did not taint the Constitution, the system.
So the system has been there before he
yes,
got into
power.
Yes,
of course. It has been there. The Constitution has been like that since 1999.
But the case of INEC and the electoral practice, the particular election that happened in 2023, it's to just it happened right in front of us. You talked about your votes not counting. You casted a vote for a particular candidate, and it did not count. But we saw a different scenario play out. Don't you think that this constitution was actually man-made?
Yes, of course. Every constitution, it's man-made. God didn't throw down constitution for us. We You know, that's why in the preamble of every constitution, you see we the people of do solemnly make for and ourselves this constitution. Okay? But in the case of Nigeria, we have never had any constitutional consultations. Say, okay, make inputs about constitutional reviews. We don't. I mean, the National Assembly should be more flexible and open in reviewing our laws. These laws affect us. We should be part of the lawmaking process, even though we do not have the voice to authenticate it in the House, but at least Nigerians should participate by, even though it's to create a simple Google form, and ask Nigerians to give feedback via a link. I mean, why are these people like this, and why are they being too difficult? Why are they making Nigerians think that we don't know what to do? These things are constitution.
But that's not
there will be feedback
possible as it stands, and that's really a sad one.
Because the people we have there do not represent the actual interest of Nigerians.
So we should agree with Zazaga that no magic will
no magic.
Stop Tinubu from
no magic. The only magic, like I told you, I pointed out the only three magics, the solution.
Okay.
Number one is, should in case Mr. President wakes up, it will be real. Then secondly, if the National Assembly will be honest in reviewing the Constitution, then the magic will happen. Then thirdly, unless the natural thing happens, God calling the man, we don't wish him death, we wish him well. We want our president to succeed. Okay, because the Bible makes us understand that we should pray for our leaders.
Yes.
Okay, so these are factors that can only make anyone win President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And also, I believe that most of the policies in place today will yield result. But I have never been happy with the way the subsidy was removed. That is one policy I disagree with his government 100% till tomorrow. The way he removed the subsidy, he ought to have, you know, it will affect the cost of garri. It will affect the cost of other produce. If I am to deliver a legal service for you in Lagos, you will consider occupational mobility, right? And all that. It will be expensive because transportation and all that. But if the transportation is cheap, I may cut down on my legal fees.
Yes.
But if the transportation is what it is today, you can't get it cheap from me. So these are just, you know, straightforward economic reasoning. So transportation affects other segments of the economy. So the way our dear president removed the subsidy was wrong. But if the policy is strictly adhered and performed, it will yield good results to the country.
We're still waiting for the policies to yield good results. Thank you so much, Barrister, and Damti, on that. Moving forward, President General of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, Nze Ozichukwu Fidelis Chukwu, on Friday said President Bola Tinubu would have written his name in gold if he orders the release of Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, otherwise known as IPOB. Chukwu made the remark while welcoming Tinubu to the southeast ahead of his official visit to Enugu State today on Saturday. In a statement by Ohanese's spokesman Alex Ogbonnaya, Chukwu said it is therefore hoped that with the Enugu visit, President Tinubu will write his name with gold in the heart of Ndigbo and all the well-meaning Nigerians if he orders for the group that can become external instigation of insecurity, convictions, and crisis. President of Nigeria, you know, and everything behind it, people of Biafra that was seeking for Ndigbo, that was seeking for a marginalization of the people of Indibo, for them to own themselves at the Biafra system, if I'm not mistaken, because they were following Odumedu Ojukwu system and saying that the Igbos are supposed to be autonomous. If I'm making sense, right? They're supposed to be autonomous and not be part of Nigeria, because he does not recognize himself as Nigerian but a Biafran, and all of those situations wrapping around the crisis. And then we have that Indibo, Haneze Indibo, has actually pledged, urged Tinubu to release him and get his name on the right path, because writing your name in gold means, well, you will be on our good book if you actually release him, no matter the reasons behind his arrest and all of that. But I want to get your thoughts. Do you think that this pledge, this request, is something that Tinubu will want to do for Ndibo against the release of Nnamdi Kanu?
Okay, thank you very much. I'll start by saying secession does not come very easy. All over the world, if we look at places where, smaller units of a country succeeded, it didn't come rosy. It attracts armed conflicts. It attracts loss of life, economic sabotage, and so lot of it. And driving it home to the Nigerian situation here with Nnamdi Kanu, we all knew what happened. For sake of time, we may not dabble into all that happened. Nigerians knew what happened, but I would want to lend my voice to, in addition to what the Ndibo, requested President Tinubu to do. It's a good thing at this point to release Nnamdi Kanu. I will use this medium to plead with the federal government to release him, because his release will encourage peace and security in the East.
Okay.
Yes, I think if he is released, most of the crises, the heinous crimes we hear partly in some part of East,
and the seat at
will douse.
Okay.
Yes, of course. This is my own view.
So you feel it would reduce?
Yes, of course. It will encourage.
So obviously the crisis that's been going on in the South is because Nnamdi Kanu has not been released up till now.
Yes, but do not rule out the fact that hoodlums, miscreants,
okay,
have also taken advantage and hijacked,
okay,
that system. They make it look like, oh, we are doing this because of non-release of this man.
Okay.
But it's a big lie. So many are criminals. Some, if you do due diligence of them, might not even be Igbos. Some might just be hoodlums who want to take advantage of the situation to start stealing from people, loot people's shops, do demonstrations in the name of Nnamdi Kanu just to loot people and all that. So government should be careful in handling this. Government should also know that, most people have termed it ethnic cleansing, but I will not subscribe to the fact that it is an ethnic cleansing.
Okay.
What we should focus now mainly is the call from Ndibo to release Nnamdi Kanu. Yes, government may frown. On what terms are we releasing him? There should be negotiations, okay? There should be terms to meet. Okay. So, okay, we can release you on these terms. That if we release you, you won't go back to this agitation. This should be, negotiations on the table, because it's a win-win thing.
Okay.
It has to be a win-win thing for them or for Nigeria to achieve that aim of releasing Nnamdi Kanu and having peace in the East. Okay,
for the fact that Nnamdi Kanu has actually been through this whole pain of the arrest and the agitation that he has been on for a very long time, do you think it's something he would want to agree to with the government on his release, for him not to go back to that agitation?
Yeah, let me answer you with a local say, or a say from various communities. When growing up, we do hear our elders say, when an individual cook for a community, the community will just eat the food and it vanishes. But when the community cooks for an individual, you can't finish the food. So this is just the situation Nnamdi Kanu has found himself.
Okay.
Nigeria have happened to him. So Nigeria haven't happened to Nnamdi Kanu. It means he has to abide by the terms of Nigeria.
Okay.
That is the truth. If he wants his release, because one, whether or not a crime was committed, the question here is that DSS has charged him for a crime. So the onus is on him and his lawyers, the defense team, to prove that there was no crime committed. Okay? We know, I and you are in Nigeria, we know all that has happened. We know where the human rights infractions have happened and all that. And one would have expected the courts, even though there have been previous pronouncement of bail. You know, I had this argument sometime with some colleagues and most sympathizers of Nnamdi Kanu, even though they are not IPOB members, but you know, Nigerians, some are still sympathizing with him. I beg, make them leave this man and all that. So we were trying to look at the reasons why, you know, you have bail here in this court. You can't go home. Don't forget, the matter are in different courts with different charges.
Yes.
So if court A grants bail, you do not have bail from court B, because these are criminal charges. So it means you must try and secure bail and perfect them all from the various courts you are being charged.
Okay.
So if, for example, Justice Nyako grants him bail in her court, Justice Abdul Malik have not granted him bail in his own court, for example.
Okay.
So these are, you know, segments of these bail conditions that Nigerians should understand.
Okay.
It's not like the government has so moto refused to let him go.
Okay.
There are legal procedures that has to be, you know, there has to follow. And they are tried under the law.
Okay.
Criminal prosecution are straightforward trials. It's all about onus of proof and the ability of the defense team to prove to the court that their client is innocent.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, in essence, that's not enough reason for this crime in the Southeast to actually continue, because lots of lives has been lost, properties have been destroyed, and people literally did not travel home this period because of the whole crisis happening in the Southeast. So, and secondly, Nnamdi Kanu denied claims that he is backing up this crisis and the sit-at-home order happening in the East. So it should be something that they have to, you know, put in place and cut short on the crisis while the other court system go through the process. If Tinubu actually accepts to release Nnamdi Kanu, but in essence, you're of the side that he should be released for peace to reign.
Yes, and we should not also forget that the president have the powers to stop the prosecution.
Okay.
Yes. Though not directly given to him by the law. But don't forget, the president has the power to hire and fire the attorney general who has that power. So it's just a question of memo.
All right.
Communicate with memo to the AG. Let's let this man go. And they will communicate the courts. All charges will be dropped.
Okay,
so we plead with the president. We encourage the president to do that part in the interest of peace in the southeast.
Okay, thank you so much. We have that the nationalist movement has backed former President Olusegun Obasanjo's claim that the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, has mismanaged the nation's refineries. The movement, in a statement signed by Elder Obo Awuru on Friday, said Obasanjo's revelation that over $2 billion has been squandered on the refineries is an indictment of the management of the NNPCL. Speaking in an interview on Thursday, Obasanjo has expressed doubts over the workability of the Port Harcourt and Warri refineries, despite announcements by the NNPCL that the oil facilities have resumed operations. Responding to Obasanjo's claims, NNPCL insisted that it had indeed revived the refineries and invited the former president for a tour of the Warri and Port Harcourt refineries. However, weighing in on the matter in a statement on Friday, the nationalist movement agreed with Obasanjo that the NNPCL's decision to reject Dangote's $750 million offer to manage the Port Harcourt and Warri and Kaduna refineries in 2007 was a gross misjudgment. The nationalist movement noted that NNPCL's decision led to billions of dollars being squandered on the refineries without achieving any meaningful results. Also, contrary to the NNPCL's claims, the movement alleged that Port Harcourt refinery is merely blending and not refining crude oil. The group noted that the alleged act is unacceptable, adding that it highlights the need for urgent action to address the corruption and mismanagement that have plagued the NNPCL. It says, we call on President Bola Tinubu to take immediate action to address the corruption and mismanagement at the NNPCL. The Nigerian people deserve better, and it's time for the government to take decisive action to ensure that the nation's resources are managed effectively and efficiently, it says. The issue of the Port Harcourt refinery, Warri refinery and Kaduna refinery being revived has been a prolonged matter. You know, you talked about the subsidy removal that the president actually removed just as he got into office. We recall that he made this pledge to Labour that before this subsidy can be removed, that these refineries have to, be put in place. But we have actually seen the situation about the refinery and what's not and how it has been.
We'll quickly say that I back the claim of Obasanjo.
Okay.
And I support what the nationalist movement is saying, because if NNPCL is telling us that they never mismanaged the refineries then, and also that the refinery is currently working on passenger, and also challenge Nigerians that are criticizing their operations, okay? Let there be thorough performance. Let there be performance. Let the performance indicators prove positive by dropping down the price of PMS to a minimal rate, to an affordable price
for everyone.
Then by the time we see that replicate in our pump prices, then we will say Obasanjo lied. We will say the nationalist movement, you were wrong in backing Obasanjo.
Okay.
But as it is now, we can't find any tanker loading, bringing out fuel from Port Harcourt refinery here. I used that road some days ago. We need to see that happening. Be honest to Nigerians. Nigerians have had a tough time beginning the inception of. In fact, we have had tough times previously, but it became tougher this time around. So the NNPCL should be more transparent, truthful, honest in discharging their constitutional function now that they are a private limited company. They should be honest in declaring their statements, audited statement of accounts to the federal government, because we know previously that the NMPCL, the NMPC